Hey, it's Quadex here. I'm here with another video. If you want another part of this, get this to 500 likes. In this part, Temari finally comes to Konoha, and Naruto gets tortured a bit in the beginning. Let's get into the video. Roll the intro.
And today thinking myself
Next day of moving. Naruto had been sparring with 5 of his clones, completely on the defensive, in the massive ground behind his house. You might think that why would Naruto need to be on defensive against his own clones? But you would be wrong. Naruto was trying to avoid all their attacks, blindfolded, and was only partially succeeding. He was trying to use everything but his eyesight to avoid the attacks. He was trying to hone his instincts to the highest level, trying to increase the precision of his danger sense. He avoided a roundhouse kick from a clone by ducking underneath, moving his left hand in a smooth motion to redirect a punch to his chin another way. He would have continued, but the seals on the outer gate informed him that someone was standing outside his house. He and his clones paused their fighting, dispelling themselves. He walked over to his towel and water, taking the bottle with him as he walked and wiping the sweat. He arrived at the gate and opened it, frowning in confusion when he saw Tsunade standing there, with Sakura, Ino, and Tenten. He frowned in concern when he saw an expression of mirth on Sakura's face, followed by the absolute savage smirk on Ino's and a friendly smile on Tenten's face. "Have a nice morning, brat?" Naruto immediately turned an annoyed face towards the busty Hokage. "Yeah, it was going fruitfully," he said with light sarcasm. Tsunade, being a medic, immediately noticed the bruise forming on his arms. She curiously asked, "What were you doing?" Naruto vaguely answered, "Training." She stepped forward. "At least let me heal those bruises." Her hands lit up with green chakra, accelerating already fast healing process. "Thanks to Kurama." Naruto's sarcastic mutter of "Did you know?" went unheard by the pink-haired girl. Ino was the next to pitch in. "Yeah, that you're going to get married to the Princess of the Sand?" Hearing Ino describe Temari like that made Naruto actually pause and think. Now that he thought about it, Temari was royalty, being the daughter of the Kazekage. This gave him the perfect comeback for Ino's comment. "Well, a prince usually only marries a princess." That earned him a half-hearted swat on the head by Tsunade, and giggles from Sakura and Tenten. Ino tried to scowl as well, but even she chuckled in the end. She should have expected this, with Naruto being the son of the Yondaime, she mused. Naruto whispered to Tsunade so only she could hear. "Not that I mind you healing me, why are you doing this? It usually vanishes in 20 minutes. Tsunade muttered back, still concentrating on the fading bruise. "I'm not doing it out of kindness, Gaki. I have need of you this day." She looked up with a slight grin. "We're going to abuse you the whole day." She mentally laughed at Naruto's alarmed expression from stepping back. "You know," she begun, "the village would know of your marriage anyways, so I decided that it'd be best on my terms." Naruto pointed an accusing finger at her. "You told Ino, didn't you?" The smirk of the female blondes gave him the answer. He shook his head. "Anyway, why have you called me here? Why have you called them here? I thought you were the one going to help me." Tsunade put an arm around his shoulder and started leading him back into the house, with the genin following behind her. "I did say that, but the work we're gonna do today cannot be done by me alone, which is why I brought some help." Naruto deadpanned at her. "Any particular reason your help consists of only girls?" Tsunade nodded seriously, causing Naruto to double check. This seemed like a serious matter. "We're going to completely refurbish this house of yours." "Don't worry," she assured the mildly panicking blonde. "We won't change the house completely. Just put some new things here and there. Add a woman's touch. That's very important, among other things. Oh, and leave something for Temari to add if she wants to." Naruto opened the door to the house, allowing the others to walk inside. He and Tsunade walked out of the others, who were marveling at the inside of the house. Ino's eyes fell on the portrait of Naruto's parents, and she gaped in awe. "Naruto, is that your mother?" Naruto turned around and saw the 3 genin looking at the portrait of his parents. He smiled slightly in pride. Yeah, isn't she beautiful? Sakura was the one who replied this time, gushing over her. She's gorgeous! Tsunade lightly shoved Naruto upstairs. Get dressed fast, we have to work today. As Naruto made his way upstairs, Tsunade walked and took a seat at the sofa. The three genin followed her example and sat down as well, with Tenten leaning forward in interest. Tsunade-sama, did you know about Naruto's parents? To the genin's surprise, the medic then snorted. It surprised me how anyone didn't figure it out. I mean, he really looks like his father. She waved her hand, gesturing to the portrait. And it was true, as they had found out on the day of the finals, Naruto and his father could be clones, if Naruto was a little more grown up in height. Before they could... There's a joke in there that I'm not gonna make. Before they could think more on this, Naruto came downstairs in his Jonin uniform. Let's get this over with, shall we? However, his confident demeanor However, his confidence dimmed after looking at the glint in their eyes. Oh, what torture it was. 7 hours later, Naruto was looking around the inside of his house with tiredness he had never felt before. He didn't have any energy left to do anything, as he tiredly collapsed on the sofa to get some of his energy to head to the bedroom and fall into his bed. He recounted what he went through the day. Tsunade and the girls had taken full advantage of his ability to mass produce shadow clones. Tsunade had taken him to get the latest kitchen accessories, while his clones had went with Ino, Sakura, and Tenten to get new interior design for the house. Tsunade also sent a clone of her own with them, just to make sure whatever the girls selected didn't make the house too girly for Naruto's taste. Naruto had protested that his house already had kitchen accessories, but Tsunade insisted he take it, if only as a wedding present from her. He was reluctant to buy it, but he did. To his enormous shock and surprise, his account, the Uzumaki's account, barely had a dent in it after the purchase they had made. And not just for the kitchen. Tsunade had only laughed and said that Kushina didn't do anything in small amounts. They had returned home to find the three girls with a group of men working extensively on the interior design of the house. After seeing Naruto, he was bewildered to see his own clones giving him looks of pain, followed by pity, and then the extreme annoyance of Naruto. Dispelling. Present. Boy, that was a roller coaster for Naruto. With merciless teasing from Kurama, the extensive work that had been going on his house had also been charged to his Uzumaki account, seeing the ridiculous amount of money it contained. Naruto had little to no problem in using it to give his house a new look. He had been quite worried that Tsunade had given Ino and Sakura free reign over the designing of the house. However, Tsunade had assured him that she had picked Tenten just for the purpose so that Ino wouldn't completely make it look like that only a woman lived there. And judging from the arguments from Tenten and Ino he had heard, with Sakura acting as a mediator, Naruto knew that Tsunade had hit the nail on the head when it came to Ino. He had a freak out when he saw what plans Ino had for the house, and almost exploded when Tsunade claimed him down and told him that she would take over it from Ino. Much to the girls' complaints, which were silenced by a stern look from the Hokage. Naruto watched over the course of the next week. Tsunade completely transformed the house into something that was lavish and modern, but not too much that it lost the homely feeling that had been there before. Tsunade also made sure that Naruto added his own touches to the house, and left space for Temari, if she wanted to add something of her own. All in all, the house was already well in time. All that was left was for Temari to come. Naruto finally snapped from the flashback and saw that he had arrived at his home. He flashed directly into his house, eager to do something to relax. He quickly took a shower and freshened up, wearing a t-shirt and a lower. He entered his father's study and sat down in the chair behind the beautiful ornate desk. He traced his hands almost in remembrance, as if he could almost picture his father sitting in this desk, going over the ideas for Funjutsu. He leaned back, folding his hands behind his head, looking up at the ceiling, trying to decide on what to do. His father's study, which was his study now, had remained mostly untouched. Only the door that led into the room had been repainted. Otherwise, Naruto had strictly kept everyone from entering the room. He had redesigned the ceiling array completely before a war named Ino was dropped on his home. The password was only one, consisting of 3 kanji characters, but he had chosen 6 that looked almost alike, with minor differences in strokes. One time he had caught Ino attempting to open the study discreetly. She had thought she was alone, but apparently not. He had stopped her before she killed herself painfully, and very sternly reminded her to respect others' privacy and keep away from the room. She had looked appropriately guilty and promised not to investigate the door anymore. He absently grabbed a paper and a brush, dipping it in ink pot and doodling some ideas on it. Had been told by Tsunade that Temari would be arriving tomorrow, so he was understandably tense. A few weeks ago, they were on the opposite sides of a war. Now they were about to get married. Things were going to be awkward, and he was not looking forward to it. He stood up, putting the brush away and crumbling the paper, burning it to ashes with a small fire. He was about to leave when something caught his eye on the shelf. More like it was a book he had never touched, for a reason he couldn't fathom. He took it off the shelf, eyebrows furrowing in confusion, when he sensed a genjutsu placed on it. With a quick pulse of chakra, he shattered it. However, instead of immediately dispelling like fog clearing away, it shattered like glass, with chips of chakra diffusing into the air. Naruto watched with a small amount of awe. Genjutsu weren't meant to shatter like this. Why did this chakra feel so warm? So much like his own? He shook his head, making a quick note to investigate that later. He opened the book, reading it. Enhancements with ceilings. Naruto muttered before flipping the pages and raising an eyebrow with incredulous at seeing countless mathematical calculations, scientific diagrams of the body, with numerous ceiling equations. He whispered to himself, "What in the hell is this?" The next day found Naruto and Tsunade standing at the west gates of the village. Hiruzen was standing next to them as well. Naruto had to hand it to him. He was the oldest, living Kage alive, who was now enjoying retirement. Hiruzen said that he was now more of a call-on advisor to Tsunade, if she ever needed help dealing with more difficult matters. "We've been standing here for almost 20 minutes, Hokage-sama," Naruto said in boredom. "Are you sure we aren't early?" Tsunade twitched beside him. Even she was starting to get a bit impatient. She was never the one for tardiness. Maybe they ran into an obstacle on the way. Hiruzen laughed at seeing the interaction between both the blondes. It was quite entertaining. "Anyways, I have something I need to talk to you and Arasenin about, Bachan." The serious tone in his voice caused Tsunade to raise an eyebrow in surprise. What could be so serious that he needed her and Jiraiya's opinion on it? Even Hiruzen was curious about Naruto, but Naruto gave an apologetic look. "Sorry, Gigi, but I can't tell you, because I need their professional opinions as a medical specialist and seal master." Hiruzen nodded in realization. That would explain him being left out. The three stood standing for 10 more minutes when Naruto announced, "They're coming," although for some reason, they're moving painfully slow. Tsunade looked at him in confusion. "How do you know that?" Naruto just gave her a look as if it was painfully obvious. "I'm a censor? Didn't Arasenin tell you?" Tsunade grit her teeth. "I'm really gonna drill that pervert on the things he left out when telling me about you. Anyway, be careful on how you speak with the Suna shinobi. You need to make a good first impression." Naruto smirked as he stared at the road ahead. Good first impression, bro. Man literally like slaughtered. No, I don't remember, but bro, man just like wrecked them in war. I was like, yup, great first impression. I think I already made a first impression. Not sure if it's good or not. On the other end, the entourage. What? I don't know what's spelled like that. From San was relieved as a whole when the gates of Konoha came into their view. As tradition said, the bride had to be escorted in a palanquin. Temari was grumbling about her legs being crumbled up from sitting for too long. She was not a delicate princess who needed to be pampered. She was a goddamn chunin of her village. Her thoughts took a melancholic that's bro, I've never heard that word. I'm not taking it. You guys haven't heard it either. Okay, I'm not accepting this. Feeling or expense intensive sadness. How do you say it though? I was right. Melancholic. I forgot again what it meant, but let's move on. And I lost where I was. Took a melancholic turn as she looked at her reflection in one of the inside mirrors. From tomorrow, she was no longer going to be a shinobi of Suna, but rather of Konoha. She had been proud of wearing her village's headband, but no more. She would have to wear another village shinobi. Proud? That's yet to be seen. Temari. The call startled her out of her thoughts. She turned her head to see Gaara poking his head inside, an unusual frown on his face. She sadly smiled at that. She was still getting used to Gaara showing concern for her. What is it, Gaara? Are you alright? The question was so out, coming from him, and yet Temari found it adorably cute. She smiled slightly as she held her brother's hand. He did not flinch. I will be, Gaara. Don't worry. Gaara looked extremely unsure of what to say next. For someone who had minimum social contact, that was to be expected. However, his next words were so sure that it caught Temari off guard. Naruto will take good care of you, Temari. He's the only one I trust to protect you. It still astounded Temari and Kankuro just how high Gaara held Naruto. Then again, Naruto had single-handedly turned Gaara's life around, so it was understandable, but putting so much trust in one person was simply mind-blowing. Thank you, Gaara. Wow. The quiet exclamation from Kankuro caught Temari's attention as she frowned. What is it, Kankuro? Both the former and current Hokage are here to greet us, along with your fiancé. The entourage reached the gates finally. Temari got out of the palanquin and came face to face with a very busty blonde woman, alongside the god of shinobi and her fiancé. Her heart skipped a beat on seeing him give a small smile in her direction, but she steeled herself. Time for talking with him would come later. She bowed to the woman. Hokage-sama, it is an honor to meet you, as well as Sandame-sama. Tsunade was formal in her reply as well. It is a pleasure to formally meet you. I am Senju Tsunade, Goddame Hokage of Konohagakure no Sato. Naruto eyed Temari appreciatively. She had changed her outfit to a long-sleeve purple blouse under a gray top, a dark blue skirt that reached her mid-thigh, showing off her legs, and a longer slash than the previous one. She carried her fan the same way as before as well, tucking it into her bow. Before Naruto could greet Temari, all talking stopped suddenly when Gaara stepped forward. Walking So was standing there directly in front of Naruto. Naruto faced the redhead with a genuine smile, waiting for him to say whatever he wanted to say. However, it became clear to Naruto when the silence stretched into awkwardness that Gaara was still learning on how to interpret social cues. So Naruto initiated the conversation. How have you been, Gaara? I have been well, Uzumaki Naruto. However, I have a request to make of you. Naruto didn't even need to read minds to know what request Gaara needed to make. He put his hands on the redhead's shoulder, ignoring the gasp from some of the Suna shinobi. I promise that I will protect Temari with my life, Gaara. This is the promise of a lifetime. That seemed to ease some tension from Gaara's shoulder. His next words were heartful. Thank you, Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto patted Gaara's shoulder once. Friends call each other by first names, Gaara. Just Naruto will suffice. Everyone was watching the interaction with different thoughts. The shinobi from Suna, except for Baki, seemed amazed that Naruto had talked to Gaara without showing 1 ounce of fear, and more considered him a dear friend. Tsunade and Hiruzen were smiling, proud of Naruto's actions. They knew how tough a Jinchuriki's life was. Gaara is more than Naruto's, but it was very mature of him to actively break the ice with Gaara when no one wanted to. Temari was giving a thankful smile to her would-be husband, with Kankuro's being more hidden. However, the puppet fighter didn't know why he automatically straightened up when Naruto glanced at him. He gulped when he saw the blonde approaching in his direction with a smirk on his face. He did not see Temari's amused expression when Naruto stood in front of him, staring down at him. Naruto was almost 5 foot 5 inches, while Kankuro was slow in the growing department and as such stood at 4 foot 11 inches. Much to his shame, so Naruto practically towered over him. Kankuro could feel sweat forming on his brow, but refused to break eye contact with the taller shinobi. Naruto then leaned forward so that his mouth was next to Kankuro's ears. You better do something about your makeup. It easily gives away your nervous sweat. Kankuro's eyebrows shot up in surprise. He didn't expect this of all things to come out of his soon-to-be brother-in-law. He didn't even know what to say, but Naruto had already moved on. Naruto stood in front of Temari, fighting the impulse to hug her right there and then. It would look very out of place, not to mention suspicious to those who didn't know of their earlier interactions. Instead, he greeted her warmly. Welcome to Konoha, Temari. Temari smiled and greeted back. I accept your welcoming, Naruto-san. Apparently, she was more aware of the protocols and ways of conversation that were to be followed in this context. That was to be expected of the eldest daughter of the Kazekage though. It was then Tsunade stepped back into the conversation. Now that the greetings are over, please follow me. I will make your arrangements of staying in our village. However, Naruto interjected. Hokage-sama, if it's not too much trouble, can I take Temari and her siblings with me to my home? They can stay with me. I have more than enough room. Tsunade gave it a moment of thought and then agreed. It would give Naruto and Temari time to talk out whatever issues they had, as well as catch up. Also, it would prove a good bonding time between Naruto and Temari's brothers. Alright, you can take them with you, but report to me earlier tomorrow for Temari's initiation. Naruto beamed in her direction and put each of his hands around Gaara and Temari, pulling them into his sides. He turned to face her and gave a charming smile. By your leave, Hokage-sama. He then flashed out of the leaving a blinking and confused Kankuro in front of an equally confused Tsunade. A few moments later, Naruto flashback grabbed Kankuro by his shoulder and flashed away again. All the people left there blinked at the unusual happenings, not knowing what sense to make out of it. Tsunade snapped out of her confusion when Hiruzen chuckled beside her at Naruto's antics. She turned to the rest of Suna Shinobi. The rest of you, follow me. I will show you your staying arrangements. And that's where I'm going to end it, guys. I hope you've all enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next part. Get this to 500 likes for that. Roll the outro. Got that one in my bed and she just wanna sleep. Fucking up all of the sheets. She only wake up to eat. Do this shit every week. Like, why you do that? Crying, you wanna be great, but sleeping until the next day. Why you do that? Got that much in the bank. We go out, she order to stay. Why you do that?